So today we have Gary on my show again because he's kind of my head chef around here. And
sous chef is another word
sous
for it.
chef.
Yes.
And we're going to be making another international dish from Matthew and Alana.
Yeah.
They have just finished a few weeks in Bali, and Matthew did a cooking class one evening. So we're going to try to replicate that. It's not quite the same. The ingredients vary a little bit, but we're going to do the best that we can and see how things turn out.
Right.
So we're going to make corn fritters, and we typically don't fry our food. So that's a little bit of a new experience for us. It's we're going to fry it, but we're doing a little bit healthier fry by not putting quite as much oil in the pan.
Just a real light amount of oil in the pan, and it's not a deep fry.
Right.
It's just a light fry. So,
okay, so
anyway,
we're going to start with...
And we're going to start with these spices. And one of the things about this, and we'll have an estimated amount of spices for the for this dish today. When they do things like in some other countries, like in Bali, they just put a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's kind of interesting. So you get a variable flavor on each batch that you make. So we're going to try this. So the first thing we have are the spices, like we said. So we've got a couple cloves of garlic we're going to throw in here. And these are celery leaves. Now I tested this, I did a batch of this yesterday, and I didn't have enough leaves, so I threw actually chopped up some celery sticks. And then we have ginger. Again, the amount is an estimated amount.
And this is actually from a ginger root. And if you
that's
don't
real ginger root,
right,
correct.
Have a ginger root, then you could just shake in some of the powdered ginger
right,
if you want.
Right. And they called for shallots, but instead of shallots, I'm just going to throw in some purple onion. Okay.
When we were shopping, we couldn't find the little shallots that were purple. So we ended up just using a regular purple.
Right.
And then as far as the pepper, this is actually a jalapeno.
This is jalapeno.
And their recipe called for a red chili.
Red chili pepper.
Which would be hotter, right? Or not?
About the same.
Okay.
I think about the same. But all they had were dried red chili peppers, and you had to buy a whole bag of them, like large. So I decided, let's just go with a jalapeno pepper. I took the seeds out. I know that's where the heat is a lot of times. But we're going to throw in some other pepper, one of my favorites, some ground black pepper. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grind this up.
Food processor, and what they actually used there was the mortar
and pestle.
And pestle. So Matthew had some pictures of him actually doing the grinding, which was really cool. But they said a food processor works just fine too.
So we're going to pulse this a few times. Just to get a start on it. Okay.
And you actually pulse this into like a mush. So when you add the rest of it, let me grab a spatula for you.
Right.
So when you're adding your other ingredients in, you're actually putting this in like a mush. And again, because the amounts are variable, it calls for corn, and Matthew is actually again grinding the corn in the mortar and pestle. And but what we're doing is we're using 2 cans of corn, and they're 15. I'm going to tie your apron. Are they 15 ounces?
She holds it together
I do.
quite well.
Yeah. Okay. I think they're 15-ounce cans of corn.
Right.
Were they?
Just 2 standard size cans of corn. And what they did, since they were doing the mortar and pestle and mashed it all up, it wasn't as mushy, if you will, as you're going to get out of a processor. So what I'm going to do is only put 1 can of corn in, and I'm going to hit the pulse a few times. And you notice I also added spinach. So this is quite
so you can
it's a green corn fritter, if you will.
So, and you can add really as much spinach as you wish.
Right.
To. And did you want to put the eggs in right now? So you're putting in, whoops, I guess we want to beat those just a little bit.
If you want.
But the processor will obviously blend those up fine.
And we just get a start on it next.
While you're doing that, I'm going to turn the fry pan on.
Good.
Did you turn that on to like 8 to get it started?
Up to 8 to start with.
Okay.
Okay.
And we looked at 2 or 3 different recipes, and they all kind of vary. These are called corn fritters. So if you use a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of oil, then you're going to have more of like blobs of this mixture. And growing up, I don't know if your mother ever made fritters. Well, my mother made like apple fritters, and
Right.
and you would use quite a bit of oil, you know, when you're
Right.
cooking those. So they also turn out very greasy. They're you know
Now
really
what I'm doing-
good, but they're
yeah.
greasy.
Now what I'm doing here is I added the other can of corn, and I'm throwing in 3 tablespoons of just plain white flour. I'm going to pulse it a couple more times. And I was saying before, we looked on online for different recipes, and some of them had flour and some did not. And then we tried some. We made these yesterday, and they turned out fine either way. So I prefer to have it a little more pulled together, a little more paste, if you will, and rather than have it just soupy as you throw it into the fry pan. So this is our mixture, what it looks like. You can see some of the corn that's in there, not all completely mushed with the processor.
Which gives it a little bit more of a texture, which
Right.
is, you know, kind of nice when you're.
Right. Okay. As I was saying earlier, the stove, our stove, has got graduated heat on from 2 up to a high. So I started out at about 8 to get the heat up. Okay. Then I do a little test. You can see a little spot in there. So that's hot enough now. So I'm going to turn that back down so we don't make too huge of a mess with the spattering of the grease. So very carefully, you just take a large spoon. And you just carefully put them into the hot grease. Try not to drop them in too quickly so you don't splatter yourself. And we're going to turn it on for about 3 minutes. So we're going to try to go about 1.5 minutes on each side. So I've turned the heat down to about a 4 or a 5 on a graduated scale from 2 to high. If you have your heat up too high, it might turn them black, and usually the first side, I don't know how familiar you are with frying in grease, but I always experience the first side you put them in, they'll get a little darker than the second side. So carefully watch it and stay with it. Don't walk away. Ruth told me yesterday I walked away to go get something in another room, and she said, "Gary, don't walk away from your hot grease." So it's kind of a safety measure. Ruth, in the meantime, is making some fresh salad. You can kind of lift up and check them a little bit. They're getting close to getting ready to turn. Yeah, so Matthew and Alana, when they were over in Bali, they had one of the local people gave them a cooking class, and this is one of the things that they were doing was corn fritters. And it's a very, if you want to call it, vegetarian. There, that's perfect there as far as the color. So it's a very vegetarian, as you saw the ingredients going in. Didn't turn that one over very well, even on cooking shows. You have those mistakes once in a while. That one kind of fell apart as well, so I'm going to give it another few more seconds on the first side and maybe turn it up a little bit more heat. Yeah, we're doing fine. Yeah, I was about to say before that when Matthew and Alana were taking their cooking class, it was kind of funny because when they gave us the recipe, they just gave us a whole list of all the ingredients: the garlic, the salt, the pepper, whatever you want to put in there, and bean sprouts and what have you. But nothing came with measurements. It was kind of interesting. So he said, you know, you kind of play with it and work with it until you think you have the right consistency. And that's why I was saying earlier, we made some yesterday with flour and some without.
Those are frying up really nicely.
These are looking pretty good. I'm not getting them to hold together as well as I wanted to, but they'll still turn out okay. This is my little test piece here to see if the oil was hot. Okay, that 3 minutes is up, but I can tell they're not done yet. And 3 minutes is only an estimate. You can tell we're probably going to go 4 minutes on these. You know, Lana just took off. We were texting back and forth this morning, and they just took off from Bali overnight last night, and they arrived in Bangkok this morning, Bangkok, Thailand. So they're going to stay there. It was kind of interesting because they said they've been living in different hotels and people's homes and apartments in Tokyo and Seoul, Korea, and the Philippines, and in Bali. And they loved Bali. It was just absolutely gorgeous. But they landed in Bangkok this morning, and they checked into a hotel, and they said, kind of a nice feel for a change after being gone for a couple of months. They checked into a Hilton hotel. They're using their points on the DoubleTree, and he says it's kind of nice to have a westernized feel for just a few days until they take off to Myanmar. They're going to take off to leave Bangkok in, I think it's 6 days, and then they head out. I believe it's on December 2nd.
They're going to be just fine.
They're going to be just fine. A couple of them didn't hold together like I wanted, but there. That one's for the person who's on a diet. That's who that one is for there. Okay. Got room for one more?
That one right there.
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Who knows, we'll fry up some more.
We'll let you get some more started.
Okay.
We'll just let these sit. Give me over here, me now.
Stay
so
close
just
by.
let these sit just a little bit, and we put them on a dinner plate or whatever kind of plate you want, and we put a piece of paper toweling on the plate, so then some of the grease then can be absorbed into the paper towel before you put the fritters. In Bali was they had a chance to stay at this couple's house. They were actually from the United States, and they needed a house sitter. So they had emailed this couple back and forth, and they were able to secure this opportunity to house sit. And the couple had 2 cats, or at least 1 cat, and 2 dogs. And so Matthew and Alana have really enjoyed doing that and taking them for walks. And they had a swimming pool in the back, and really kind of living the life of Riley, and really enjoying themselves. So that was one of the big benefits that you know they really liked in Bali. Okay, so we are ready to place our corn fritters on our plate. I have a salad, and I have a spring mix with different types of lettuce in there, a little bit of extra spinach, some mushrooms, little cherry tomatoes. Really, you can do whatever you want on your salad. So most of the grease has absorbed into the paper towel, and we're going to place it on our plate like that. And as I said, depending on how much oil that you use in your pan, one of the pictures that we had seen online, they had their salad and the fritters were much bigger. Mm-hmm. But because we used a little bit of a healthier way of doing this, less oil, so you're going to have a flatter fritter. So from Bali and a slice of heaven, hopefully Matthew and Alana will be proud of us that we tried yet another
I
recipe.
Hope so. Some of them look like they might have broken up a little bit, but hey, it's all about the flavor. It's not about the look some days.
Yeah, so we look forward to the next recipe that we're going to get possibly from Thailand. I know when we took our kids on a trip, we ate at a Thai restaurant a couple of times, and so there could be some interesting, recipes coming our way.
Right.
So as we are taping this show today, it's the day before Thanksgiving, so we hope all of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving, didn't eat too much turkey and dressing and all the wonderful extra things that we're going to have at Thanksgiving time. And from A Slice of Heaven, until next time, happy cooking.
And happy Thanksgiving. Myanmar. Did it say Miramar? Myanmar. Yeah, it's Myanmar. Miramar, I think, is a studio in Hollywood that makes movies. Myanmar.
That's Miramax.
That's Miramax.
Okay.